This video is supported by Roket Railways for all your model railway needs. Please check the link in the description below. Hello and welcome back to Galgormhall for the second episode of the scratch build series of this, I've been told correctly, Gillingham signal box. What I want to look at in this episode is cladding the structure in its brick Plasticard and some plain Plasticard too. If we have time, I will also look at installing the main signal box windows, but again, like I say, only if we have time. Materials wise, what I need in this for this is some plain Plasticard. I'm using the brown one because it'll suit better for what actually will be sort of like a cement finish to this, so the brown will be a better sort of coating for that. The brickwork is Slaters Plasticard, and this is the plain bond, so it's just, you know, bricks alternating all the way down. There's no sort of fancy finish with this brick. Essentially what we'll start with then are the strips around the top and underneath the windows, which is the plain Plasticard. Now for above the windows, we are looking at using strips of Plasticard cut to a 5 millimeter thickness, and it's a simple case of just gluing into position. Now what I'll do is I will start with the sides, and they will be cut flush to each end. So if I just add a strip of Roket card glue just along this top edge here, and we place one of these into position. And I'm not cutting anything at the minute. What I'll do is I'll let it be put into position first. Make sure it's nice and flush. And then once it's in place, really it should be left for the glue to go off for a little period, but just to move this on a little bit, I'll make the cut on both ends. Now what that then leaves us is, once I do the other side, I can add this front strip onto it, and just from the front anyway, we're not getting any sort of join marks from where the two pieces of Plasticard are connecting. Now what I will do is, whenever all ends are glued and the glue has gone off, I will sand that just nice and smooth, and just with a little drop of plastic weld, run a wee dab of that along there just to seal those corners in. Now while the glue goes off on the top ones, I can look at adding the ones underneath the window, and this is a 3 millimeter strip of plain Plasticard. For the side windows, they only go as far as the edge of the actual window, whereas on the front it extends right the full length across the central pillar here as well. So these will get glued in exactly the same way as the ones above. Okay, so that's the easy bit of the plain Plasticard. The next bit's a little bit more difficult in that I need to place a windowsill right round the outside edge of the window, and what makes it a little bit more difficult is that it extends across the central pillar here. So I'm going to use again 3 millimeter Plasticard, and what I want to do is to mark it up correctly. So this is 3 mil. The space we have here laying flat up to the flush edge of the Plasticard that we put in is 2 millimeters, so I need to ensure there's a millimeter overhang at each end, plus I need to mark the center point where I need to cut out the section to go around the pillar, and then I'll need to mark 1 millimeter more or less at this end. I can trim that to suit once I put the side ones in, but as long as I have it roughly correct at this stage. So with this one here, I need to cut a 2 millimeter notch out of this. Okay, if I offer this up to the wall, we can see whether I need to make any more slight modifications. It's just a little bit too snug. No, well, that's actually maybe okay. No, I need to just shave the tiniest little bit off one edge. That's pretty good. And I want to ensure that it's sitting flush at the back of the wall for whenever it's glued in place, but I think that's okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll glue that now. I'm just making sure that it runs nice and flush with the back end of the wall. That's looking okay. And then we can add another strip in on this side. And we'll repeat that on the other side too, of course. Now, to further strengthen those two bits of Plasticard, I will also run a drop of plastic weld just along the bottom edge of it, so that anything that's not making great contact with the card and the Roket card, just like here actually, that's just going to help hold everything in together much better, and certainly along that central pillar there where there was no glue at all. With the plain Plasticard work all done, we can now move on to the brick, and for that, if you remember, we're using the Slaters plain bond Plasticard, brick Plasticard. Now for that, what I have done to date is to measure the height of the box from just underneath the plain Plasticard to the ground, and that's coming in at 59 millimeters. And then I've taken my Slaters Plasticard and I've cut a full strip, the 59 millimeters in height, and I've cut the entire length. And what this will mean is that whenever we go to place it in onto the building, we make our cut, we move it around to the next side, and it means that on each corner the mortar joins of the brick will marry up all the way around. Otherwise you can end up with sort of higgledy-piggledy if you don't watch the way you're cutting this card. We'll work on the rear of the building just to demonstrate what I'm going to do, and then I'll go ahead and I'll do each side, and then I'll finish on the front with the final piece. The reason I'm doing the rear is it sort of brings in a little bit of everything. We've got a door, we've got a wee bit of cutting and that to do, etc. So the width of the building is 114 millimeters in width. What we're going to do is cut it to approximately 115 millimeters, and this will allow for a slight overhang on each side, so that whenever the Plasticard comes down each side, it'll marry in at the corners, hopefully. Now, to help with the marrying in, we will miter each end. Now I've already done, which end did I do? Yes, I've already done this end here. So if I measure 115 millimeters on this piece of card, what I'm finding is that it's coming right in on a mortar join here, which makes lining up the ruler so much easier, and you're getting more of an accurate cut as well. So we'll cut that at about the 45, slightly shallower than 45, maybe 50 degrees. With that now cut, we need to then make a second cut dividing this brick in two, one for the back wall here and one for the extension. So the bottom wall is 32 millimeters. So I'm going to mark that first on the card. And again we come in nicely. That's 22, we need to do 32. Again we come in nicely on a mortar line, and I'll just line that up there just to make sure we've got the measurement correct. Yep, that's right. And then we can make that cut. So this is our top one here, and it will slot in there just as it is. Now if it's slightly short, we want to make sure that it meets at least with the top part of the wall, because the bottom is going to be hidden by the roof to a degree. So we would rather have it sitting perfect at the top than at the bottom. So I can go ahead and glue that, and we'll use the Roket card glue, and then a nice liberal amount, particularly at the edges, to stop it delaminating over time. And hopefully you can see there, just jutting out over the edges. It's maybe not going to focus that well on that side. Let's try it on this side. Just jutting out over the edges is the little mitered join. So whenever I can demonstrate it here, whenever the Plasticard butts up against that, we get a nice neat join right at the corners. Now obviously there is going to be an element of a line, but that can be, you can use a wee drop of filler just to help disguise that even more. But that is that section there. Now obviously underneath we have a roof, or sorry, a window. So I'm going to place that into position, and with the use of these clips we'll hold it there, which means I can then maneuver about, and with my pencil I want to try and mark roughly at least where the window is. There's not a lot of space in here to work with, but hopefully we get something. Yeah, we have enough of a cut here, and we'll cut that out. Okay, our window is out. Now it's not going to be 100% perfect because we can't get a nice sharp line, but once it's glued into place we will be able to sort of trim it right back to the edge of the card, but don't worry about that for now. So I can go ahead and I can glue this too. And in the case of this one here, we'll make sure that it's sitting firmly on the base of the table, and that I'm pressing the Plasticard down onto that base, so we have a nice neat line right along the bottom. Right, with that done, that is the first section complete. I do need to trim back the window here, but I'll wait until the glue goes completely off before I do so. This side here follows exactly the same procedure as the rear. You put it up against, mark out the window or the door, and cut it out before gluing in place. The front has absolutely nothing to be done to it. This side here is probably the most complicated, with the 3 openings that have to be cut out. The window and the top door are fairly straightforward. The bottom one, however, would require mitering down both sides here, as there will be brickwork going down the corridor on both sides of this. So it just takes a little bit of additional care whenever measuring out at this point. What is probably best here is to cut out a small opening first and then slowly trim back towards each corner, and check and double check until you're satisfied that you have the positioning right for the door. And finally, the last piece goes in. Now I won't lie to you here, but that cutting and measuring, hopefully you will have seen or been able to grasp a little bit of that on the speeded up section there. But it's not an easy thing to do. There is a lot of cutting, measuring, checking, going back to it, cutting, measuring, checking, and so on, and just repeat that process until you get a satisfactory conclusion. But it's not something I would look forward to doing too many times. But anyway, we're done, and that is all the brickwork in. Now, I did mention earlier that the windows and the doors will need a little bit of trimming, and just by taking your craft blade, hopefully you'll be able to see this, just shaving it off ever so gently right down to the card backing will give you a nice finish. And again, this is something that would be much easier to carry out off of camera rather than on, but just that there gives you an idea as to what needs doing, and that'll be repeated on the top door and the top window as well. So I think we'll leave it there for this week. That's taken an awful lot longer than I expected. Next time we'll come back and I will get the paint work done on the brick and the plain Plasticard at the top, and we'll also look at installing the windows and probably the doors as well if we've got time. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you in a couple of weeks. See you soon. Bye bye.